Bado unavalisha mtoto nguo ndo asisumbue nale.
No, we are live. Thank you so much. Good evening, guys, and welcome to the dialogue. Today we'll be talking about the state of men's mental health, and we have our 6 panelists. I'll give them time to introduce themselves. My name is Charity Wanyonyi. I'm a certified nutritionist and one of the co-founders of this platform. So I'll just go on Tanzania Nani. Let's start with George. Tukienda hivyo chini, you'll introduce yourself and just a short brief bio about you and your work and why this topic is important. Thank you. Just 1 minute, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Charity, and of course the TNC Dialogue platform for giving us this opportunity to talk about this important topic. So my name is George Omolo. I like to talk about men mental health issues. So I like to refer myself as a men mental health advocate. I think because of this, I like to confine myself to that title. And it's my pleasure to be here and to talk about this issue and see how we can help. Yeah, thank you.
Brighton, when you're ready. Brighton, can you hear me? Reina, you can take over. Then kama Brighton anatusikia. You introduce yourself, what you do, and why this is important to you.
Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you for the privilege of allowing us gather here. My name is Reina Odete. I'm a dietitian. I consult at Westlands Specialist Hospital. That is where I practice. And for today's discussion, it's of importance because we are here to acknowledge the importance of men's mental health. So I believe the discussion we're going to have is going to bring an impact to most of our lives and also the general population of the men that we have. So it's a pleasure. I hope you are going to enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reina. Brighton, I don't know if you can hear me.
Hello, Charity. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. I hope everyone else is able. You can just introduce yourself, what you do, and why this is important to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brighton Onyango. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and I work at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. I'm also very passionate when it comes to matters relating to mental health. And today we are going to get to understand more about the relationship between nutrition and when it comes to mental well-being. As we talk about the provision of a holistic care, and today we are going to dwell more on men. And being a man, I know this is an area that I'm also looking forward to hear from the panelists on the ground and understand more. As far as also I'll try and create a link up between nutrition and men's mental well-being. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brighton. Japheth, if you're able to hear me, you can just turn on your camera, introduce yourself, and tell us why this is important to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope my audio is clear and my video is clear as well. I'm Japheth Winston. I work with AR Healthcare Kenya as well as Placid Nutrition. And I'm glad to be on this dialogue today because it's an important discussion for us to have as men. But for me, particularly this evening, I really want to talk about the men in healthcare. How have we taken care of the men who are in healthcare themselves? Are we taking care of their health, of their mental state? Sometimes when the ward there, you lose a patient. Some of us get attached to patients. I remember when I was doing my clinical attachment at Mama Lucy Kibaki, they used to abandon so many children there in that facility. Then you'll find yourself you're attached to someone's baby. Then next time you see that baby on BBC TV being smuggled to another county, So I think it's a passionate thing for me, and I'm glad to be on this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Japheth. And our last speaker for the night is Stuma. When you're ready, please unmute. Tell us your name, what you do, and why this is important to you. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Habari zenu? Kwa majina mimi naitwa Situma Innocent Wafula. Pole, nimeingia in and out, but I work with Maestro Pharmaceuticals. I'm a founder, but I'm a clinical nutritionist trained, health systems administrator, pharmacist, and things around that area. So mine is simple. Just want to look at the whole thing. How can we be able to support each other? How can we be able to have the manhole where things can be discussed, and how can we be able to support one another? So hoping to get an interactive session from you, engagements, questions, and all around, so that we can make a better place for everyone to live and a better place for the whole environment to operate, so that we have a wholesome generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for that introduction and for telling us what you do. We are glad to have you on our platform. Lilian, utaniambia kwa side chat when you're ready to speak, kwa sababu we can't fit all of us hapa. So before we begin, I've already given the speakers what they're supposed to speak about. So you're going to go in chapters, and each of them is going to take a lead, talk about it, and then if you have any questions in the comments, if you're watching us on LinkedIn, you can leave your question, your interaction, and I'll be able to see it and respond to it. So our first guest, who is George, is going to take us through understanding mental health. So we're going to ask George, when you talk about mental health, what conversation do you think society is still avoiding? You can just talk about that and also talk about what we had discussed earlier, why it's difficult for men to talk about this. So the floor is yours, feel free. And then at the end of it all, if you're a panelist and you have any other thing to add, we'll give you a chance at the end of George's session, and then we'll go on and on until we finish. So George, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think maybe if I can have an open remark before I dive into the question, I think it will be important to note that mental health is a silent crisis because of many cultures, both in Africa and of course globally, have equated masculinity with stoicism, independence, and emotional control. So the expression makes suffering invisible, So men show distress differently, that they are less likely to seek help and have a higher rates of suicide and substance-related deaths because of those kind of issues. So when we talk about intentionality about men's mental health, we reduce stigma, and I believe that is the basis of this talk tonight. We also will be able to shape services that fit how men actually seek support and protect families and communities that depend on men's well-being. So when you talk about why is it important to intentionally talk about men's mental health today, it's very important because of a number of reasons. One, we need to recognize that it's very essential because men often experience and express mental health challenges differently from women. And these differences are frequently overlooked in one-size-fits-all conversations. If we are not keen, we will tend to, put the way we handle men and women in one basket, yet we portray differently our mental health issues. So psychologically, men tend to externalize behaviors. You find they'll be more irritable, they'll show signs of anger, withdrawal, substance use, or overworking, rather than more internalizing patterns like sadness or anxiety that will lead women to seek help and receive diagnosis, more rapidly as compared to men. So many men, because of that, many men are wired for intentional action, purpose, and duty. So you'll find they process distress through problem solving, physical outlets, and building resilience, drawing from traditions like Stoicism, which Stoicism was trying to reward, pain. You suffer, but you don't show that you're suffering. So, and that's why it's important to have this talk. So today, intentional talk will focus matters because changing economic roles, social isolation, and declining male, educational outcomes have created a silent crisis. And because of this, we'll find men commit suicide roughly 3 or 4 times, the rate of women. But despite those kind of numbers, mental health treatment, they receive mental health treatment at a lower rate compared to women, 40% versus 52%. So we tend to ignore these male-specific patterns, and we miss opportunities to meet men where they are, through purpose-driven, action-oriented support rather than, solely talking about therapy. And I think also it will be important because of this. We are not asking men to be less masculine. Masculinity is very important for men, especially in these modern times. But what we are trying to say, we are asking society to be more humane and understand men from that point of view on how we harness, our mental issues. When we are more irritable, when we tend to overwork, when we talk through, physical aggression, that shows that there's something that is happening mentally to us that need to be addressed. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much, George. I don't know if anyone in the panel is ready to add something, if they have something to say. Lillian, you're settled. Who could you introduce? Lillian, are you in?
Yes, I am. I don't know if you can hear me. Niko chini.
Yes. Nimekuweka juu jaangalia.
Oh, okay. Sawa sawa.
Yeah, you can introduce yourself. Yeah.
Tuko hapa tunafanya the Lord's work. So my name is Lillian. Stop laughing. I'm a clinical nutritionist. And yeah, I'm also one of the co-founders of the Nutritionist Corner. And yeah, what I have actually come when it comes to men's health, sinanga so much to say, but I've actually experienced venye Georgia may introduce, like someone getting physically aggressive, someone getting angry, abused. I've seen it with some of my friends, my brother, my cousins, So, and I think venye Georgia tu amesema, this is a very sensitive topic. We have invested a lot in women, and of course, I'm still championing, and I'm going to champion for more for women. But of course, the other gender, there's a lot of gaps. Like hakuna, hata kama iko, it's very minimal. There are no specific, and even if you ukiangalia hizi Men's Day and International Women's Day, like the way they are actually highlighted, June. I didn't see events that were centered around men's mental health or even men's wealth in general. But time ya May tunawanga na mingi sana for women. So I think it becomes harder for someone who's struggling because to actually come and seek for help because wanaona ni kama wataonekana how si strong enough. This is a very important conversation, and karibuni sana. Remember to share your insights, your concerns, your comments, and even questions in the comment section so that we can actually encourage someone who's struggling to come out and seek help. Wajiongelele, because we can't speak for them. And the toxic masculinity will have you saying that we can't have a woman speak for us. So I think when we have the gents here tonight, it's a good thing so that they can speak on their own behalf, so that someone else can relate, so that that man who feels like seeking help is not something that a strong man will do, can actually relate to that. So this is going to be a very engaging session, lakini pia tunafanya kazi ya Mungu hapa nyuma. Thank you, Charity.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Lillian, nikikutaka juu nitakurudisha juu. I don't know if someone has anything else to add. Mwenye ako huko chini. There's a message on the side, a message box. Just leave the message on the side, and then I'll bring you up as we continue with the session. So George, thank you so much for highlighting. Umesema kitu about masculinity. Maybe you can define what masculinity is for us ndio tuelewe. That's why people say toxic. I don't want to air quote it. I am on the side to elewe what toxic masculinity is. Thank you, George. Welcome.
Masculinity is just being a man, showing your, manly qualities to the world and less of feminine qualities. You have to be a provider, a protector. Those are the masculine qualities that we actually, when we talk about masculinity or positive masculinity, that's what we are talking about. But the problem is that society have confused masculinity to what we are calling stoicism. And stoicism is something that has been there for quite a long time. And in a man's perspective, stoicism is what has eroded this positive masculinity, because it meant that the quality of experiencing pain or trouble without complaining or showing emotions, that you are to really suffer in deep, but you don't need to show it. That if you cry is a sign of weakness, that if you become vulnerable is a sign of weakness. That was what Stoicism was preaching, and that's what men have carried through, generations to generation. That's why you see most of us, it's very hard to become vulnerable. You suffer in silence. Even if you are surrounded by people around you, you rather just bottle it, keep it inside you, because that's from that generation perspective, you're saying mwanaume kamili. You suffer in silence. And see, that's what we are trying to break away from. If we really want to solve, the serious main mental issues, then we need to separate, that stoicism from masculinity that we are trying to talk about. But I think this issue actually has been the society as the one that actually made it, wameskuma sana, because you find there's some part of this population that will support stoicism when it's advantageous to them, but then when it is not helping them in any way, they say it's pathological. So it's something which also our society has perpetuated. So what we are trying to say is that we need to break away from it and let men know that it's not advantageous when you suffer in silence or keep things, for yourself when actually you're suffering. It's good to be vulnerable, talk to people, seek help. But from my perspective, if I'm a man, if I need to seek help, I'll just seek it from a fellow man, not from a woman, because a man will understand me better. So I need to look for a man either in my level or above me, and we sit down and I explain what my issues are so that we can sit and solve it as men. But what I'm trying to discourage is that, and what I may call as a weak man, is where now you have issues as a man and you take your issues before assembly of women and you think the assembly of women will solve your issues. The way women act is different from the way men act. So men will understand themselves much better than the way women will do. And that's why you remember when I said in the introduction, you find the way women shows men tend to externalize their behaviors. If I have a mental issue, I will try to externalize my behaviors. Either I'll be irritable, I'll show it through anger, I'll show it through withdrawal, or substance abuse, or I'll tend to overwork. And when you see a man exhibiting those kind of signs, you definitely know that there's something going on. But the way women does it differently, because now women tend to internalize their issues, which means they will show it through sadness, anxiety. So it's very easy to see a woman who has issues. You turn her to, she's sad or she has anxiety. And so it'll be easy for them to seek help, because there are things that you can visibly see, physically see from the way they portray for, and that's why it's easy for them to seek help than it is for men to do. So for men, if you want your issue to be sorted, I encourage, to sit with assembly of fellow men and we see how to talk it out. Be vulnerable to a fellow man who understands you much better. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jude. I have a lot to say, but ngoja tuendelee na session. It's okay.
Well, it's
So,
the same
Reina,
thing. It's a
I have a
mental
lot to
issue.
say. I don't know if anyone else in the.
There's something
Uh-huh.
I got from George. I don't want to say I agree, but I'll start with a story. When we were growing, especially as boys, I happened to come from a culture whereby the measure of manhood, especially, it starts from being cut. You have to go around with some bells ringing. You have to be slapped. You have to test. Your nail has to go through some fire and such things. And after that, the whole process is going to be witnessed. So when you look around, and then of course we had these two things running comparatively, both happening to men, especially now to this generation. So we had two groups, or let me say three. We had those who were born and possibly get circumcised or initiated, of course now meaning in terms of the foreskin, at young age. Then we had those who will grow to age and then they will be circumcised, possibly from the hospital. And then there are those who do at home. It's going to be around August. You guys will witness. And growing up in those circumstances, the society labeled, especially those men in hospital, as cowards in
Yes,
a manner.
Mm.
Or those who are never initiated as cowards in a certain way. While those who are initiated as strong, bold, and manly. And this has gone on for a period of time, even up to now, when you go deep down. And these societies speak them differently. When you go to different communities, Maasai, Kalenjin, different groups across the globe, they speak these things differently. And that is what the whole society brings manhood, as I put, or masculinity in the whole perspective. And then it equally even came when in childhood that even possibly when we were young, my dad will abhor us from staying in the kitchen with our mothers. It will be like a taboo to do some activities. And that has been going on for a period of time. And we've not had this transition period where we've had a whole society change. See, these things, it's like 2 decades now, and we've had a whole society change, whereby we are appreciating everything somebody is talking about, defining this other group is defining it this way. We still have the society that is defining it this way. And in one way or another, it's bringing a state of what and what. Now we're having, like, for example, we who grew up in certain societies, cooking was not, you not cook. I've not seen my father cook. And then here, I'm married, a charity, for example, or my group expects me to go in the kitchen or do some tasks or do some chores. Now, it's bringing a wholesome dynamic change and wholesome society. But putting all that on the perspective, I come to define masculinity as what does nature provide from the man's DNA. These X and Y chromosome. What is in this Y chromosome that my gentleman here and myself contain? And it does happen, of course. You can observe some common characteristics that appear common across all societies, across all the people, across different people. And some of the key things that you'll see from all men, the first thing is always to protect. It appears natural, be they animal. Even if when you looked at, for example, chicken, if an eagle hovers around, the hen will duck, but the cock will remain standing and bouncing the wings. If you go to animals, if any danger appears, the female will run. The bull will remain hovering around, offering protection. When we come to we gentlemen, as young, observe young children, brothers and sisters. If this young boy, if he has a sister and there's something attacking, this boy will put the sister at the back while he remains on the front. So that is what is internally by nature. And I tend to believe that is the first definition of masculinity. Protect. The second bit, lead. Show the direction. Take position. Be on the forefront. And it naturally comes out. Like if you observe, I like children because a good time I observe them when they come from school. If a bus stops, I will rarely see a girl stepping out from the first one. You will see boys running fast. Not because of a form of competition, but taking the first position. And in any environment, you'll find that these are always struggling to pick the first position, to be in front. Observe even animals when they are moving. If you've reared animal, you'll see the male being on the front. Not that because it's that way, but this is what is the instinct of this Y chromosome of these human beings. The third point in masculinity is supporting. Support. You rarely see, for example, a situation like observing some groups. You'll find if you need something, chances are the male are likely to come together to push things all through as compared to the other gender, where you're going to find, at times you observe female like fight in between. But men are likely to wake up and push and so that bit of support for others, despite even not knowing each other, you find those things naturally flowing. So I find that definition of masculinity, and this is something coming in naturally. It is the same thing like to the opposite gender, like congratulations, Lillian. You find you doing it with ease. You see like what she's just been doing, breastfeeding, with ease, without having fear or shame or bringing it out. And that is masculinity and femininity. But however, as we've moved along, the society has come to pick these things differently, as I came to introduce it earlier, based on the background, environment, and the whole setup. So, which defines it in each way or another. Then my last introductory remark on Stoicism. Just equal to masculinity. Slightly, I differ with George. Stoicism has been defined wrongly. And if to advise, I'm a reader of the guy who discussed Stoicism, exemplary, and made me understand Stoicism, which has been, of course, now tied to what I never want to label as toxic masculinity, because in any environment, we always have outliers, whether you like it or not. But those outliers should not define the whole population. So what is Stoicism? Stoicism is an act of being in control, especially of self. Self-control. If there's need to shout, am I going to shout? Does it matter really to shout? That is being stoic. If people are wailing or I'm supposed to wail, is it necessary? If I'm to amass, for example, property or money, do I really need all this? That second thought, and which moves very closely to men, because you can't protect if you can't think, have a second thought. You can't lead if you don't have a second thought. That what if? You can't protect, you can't support if you don't have that second thought, which wholesomely brings out our stoicism. Of course, a character and support of each other, which of course comes, we get people who are on the extreme, which comes with some character of arrogance, overconfidence, being too mean, being too harsh, being too, as in, extreme. And of course, we get people who define themselves as being stoic, being extremely on the other end, and then chances like they speak loudly about it. So, of course, we tend to pick the loudest speaker as the designer of all that, which to a certain level, of course, the tone and the attitude distorts the whole statement and the whole sentence. So that's slightly on my end, and I led the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stuma, for that insightful take on masculinity and explaining to us what toxic masculinity is. I reserve my thoughts on that. So the discussion is good, but we have to get moving because of time. So Reina will be taking us through breaking the silence. After now, you know the silence, so it's going to tell us why many people
Charity. If you allow me, before we move on to the next one.
Okay.
There's this assembly of women I heard. Like, someone needs to clarify the assembly of women. I'm not, let me use my own example. Being in the nutrition space, most of the time you find our seniors over the years have been women. I was at Mama Lucy, my HOD was a woman. I was at Mudaiga, my HOD was a woman. I went to AR Hospital, my HOD was a woman. I went to FSB in Africa, my HR was a woman. So you find this assembly of women is everywhere. And sometimes it's this assembly of women that can, you can be able to vent to. So George, maybe you come up and shed some light on this assembly of women. And we also know the power. We also know the power of the woman. Yeah? Before we go far, you remember Samson?
Okay, good.
Baroque Samson, So
Okay.
at least about the assembly of
No,
women.
George, before you respond, let him just explain what assembly of women, what the definition of assembly of
That is
women.
a tricky one.
Let us understand that, because anyways, George, respond to it. Just in a few words, please.
Well, okay, that's a good question, but okay, the angle of which I was perceiving it, or the angle in which I was trying to bring it up, is through psychologically understanding how men embrace, their mental issues. And that's why when I said psychologically, if you look at the difference between psychological, there's a difference between men and women. And I said psychologically, men tend to externalize, they have externalizing behaviors on how they show or portray that they have mental issues. And I said the difference, one, men tend to externalize, but women tend to internalize. And what I meant by that, men will show it through irritability. You'll not show it, you will not see it in their faces, but you'll see it in their actions. They'll be irritable, you'll see anger, withdrawal. Some will get into substance abuse, like they'll start drinking or smoking or getting involved, indulging into, substance abuse. Or some will tend to overwork. Maybe when you're supposed to leave work at 5, they'll try to overwork until maybe 7. So that's how men try to externalize, their mental issues. But on the other end, women tend to internalize, where you'll find women will show sadness. You can see on the face that they're sad. You can see on their face they're anxious. You can see on their face they're depressed. And that's why it's easier for someone to pick up and know this lady has issues, we need to address it. And women tend to socialize their issues. Then they tend to talk about it. So it's much easier for a woman to get help as compared to man, because we tend to manifest these things differently. And that's why I said, when I talked about assembly of women versus assembly of men, I believe because men, we tend to behave the same way on how we, portray our mental issues, a fellow man will be able to pick it up. For example, if I'm someone who used to work from 9 to 5, and then all of a sudden I'm coming home late, all of a sudden I've started drinking up, all of a sudden I'm starting to show anger issues, all of a sudden things that I used to like, I don't like them anymore. I believe a fellow man will be able to understand and pick it up. Hey, jamaa kuna kitu namsumbua, But I believe from a lady's perspective, since ladies are prone to internalize their issue, they'll show sadness. A man will have issues, but they'll be smiling with you, but they're having issues within their heart. They're hurting, but they will be smiling with you. They're hurting, but they still do things that usually do with you. But that's something that women don't do. When a woman hurts, you'll be able to see they're hurting. And that's why I said it's easier for a man to pick that up. That, hey, Ujama, squeeze the way I see him, this is not the way it used to be. There can be something. But see, for a woman, I believe they may not be able to pick that up because we are built differently. And that's what I meant when I said the difference between the two. So if you have a man that you respect or you highly value, that their opinion you will actually respect, then you can sit to them and talk to them, or someone can be able to see there's something wrong happening with you. They can have a sit down with you and talk to you through it. That's what I meant psychologically in that difference. I don't know if you understand.
And just to add slightly.
Yes. I need Jafet to confirm that he has understood me. I don't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah, I think that the clarification is important when now I really totally understand you now. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just equivalently, to the benefit of the audience, that Jafet is very good that you brought it up. Yes. Especially that term of assembly of women. We equivalently have what you call assembly of men. And how do these assemblies come about? They come in when, you see, at times we find ourselves with a common thing, an association like. Is there something common we are suffering from? Is there something common that is bringing us together? Then we find creating that particular bond. So psychologically, what happens? I'll pick a statement from what George just put in, that women tend to get out, as in express it outwardly, have it, and like a peacock, it has to appear, it has to come out, which is naturally, and by gene or genetically, those expressions to lead, to protect, to support, they are things that have to be seen. They cannot be kept internally. So in any environment existing that tends to suppress those events, an environment that makes this man not to express leadership, not to express protection, not to express support, then what happens is it brings out the opposite side now. What is the opposite side? To squint. Mm-hmm. Now, that affects this man psychologically and mentally. So, on the opposite side is, of course, it's a whole thing which I think Charity and Lillian will define it better. But I find, under such expression now, you find this type of female tend to associate together based on whatever that has come in, and then create a whole definition to be able to move with it, which sometimes, of course, you cannot say is bad or good. What is the objective? What comes out of it? Is it going to help the society, or does it become bad to the society? But key part for men is those 3 points, are we suppressing it or are we letting it express itself? And in expressing itself, what are the controls? Then from there, we have a wholesome living society, because these two people are not equal and we never have equality. In fact, that is one of the things that myself, I'm a biggest opposer of things called equality. No, people have been gifted differently with their different abilities, which in their area of gifting, they must be expressed, they must be allowed to express those abilities. And by expressing those abilities, we get the best out of them. And of course, in the long run, a wholesome contribution to a better society. Thank you.
Yeah, but again, to also, give some weight to your statement, Situma. I think what we're trying to do, we are not trying to, pit men against women. No, that's not the issue. That's not the objective here. What we are trying to do is that we need to recognize and complement each other's strengths so that we both strive. That the way you've put it so well. We both have different strengths and abilities and qualities. We are not the same, and maybe even the way we express and handle our issues. So we need to recognize our strengths and then see how we can both strive with those strengths. So I believe when men are mentally strong, our families and communities even benefit directly, even much better than when we have weaker men. Yeah. So when we have stronger men, our families and communities and our ladies, they have a better life, quality of life than when men are weaker. So we are trying to complement each other's strengths. Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
You guys, you're making me work as the moderator so hard. So you're going to move on to the next chapter. I'm not going to comment anything because you're talking about the state of men's mental health, and we love when you guys have a discussion so that we gauge where your mental state is at, because you're representing your demography. So sisi wanawake tutasema nini? Tukisema assembly of women, assembly of men, that will open a whole lot of discussion, which I'm sure we are not here for. We'll have another session where we'll talk about that. Okay. And Georgia said we are not here to put anything against women, anything against men. We're here to just discuss the state of your mental health. So chapter 2 is going to be led by Raina, who is going to help us understand what prevents many men from seeking help. I know some of you have mentioned it, but I just want him to highlight why some men find it so hard to seek help. So Raina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity. Just to echo on what Situma and Georgia said, you'll find that ideally men figure out things in different ways, and trying to sort out issues that are affecting men generally is also a bit hard, because we all know men are different, and their ways of thinking is also different. So getting into the act of putting men in the same group in terms of their mental state and all that is also a bit hard, because physically, emotionally, socially, all of us are different. So how we perceive things are also very different. Okay, so you'll find that men also tend to take a lot of time to realize that they have particular issues that are affecting them. So getting to the extent of realizing that one has this specific issue to deal with is also very difficult, because it will take someone to realize that I'm having this sort of a problem. Okay, so number one, opening up will be very difficult because of what George mentioned a bit earlier. Social status is a big thing that is affecting us as men generally. Okay, because there is the expectation of you being a man to a certain extent. Okay, and also the state of the communities that we come from. So you're expected to stand up and be a man, as you are called. So you'll find that we will tend to appear strong outwardly and physically. Okay, but deep down, you'll find you're having depression, you're having issues that you can't deal with, you don't want to open up and sort of issues. So getting to the extent of giving out your best is also going to be a little bit of hindrance. So there are barriers that usually affect men to open up. So as I say, social settings. So the state of the communities and also where we are as men will give us the aspect of standing in as much as we are hurting from inside, so that we can bring out the issues of whatever we are supposed to do. We've talked of traditional masculinity, of trying to put out the aspect of being a man to the society. So it becomes a little bit of a problem, tending to balance what is in your thoughts and what the community needs you to do. And we also have this aspect of fear of judgment, which is important, because if I speak out, how will my friend take it in terms of when I'm opening up? Okay, so I'd rather keep things to myself rather than opening up. So the fear will make me to confide most of my problems or most of the things that someone is going through to oneself. Okay, and then getting to the aspect of lack of, we mentioned it earlier, getting someone who is closer to you that will help you figure out most of these things. Having a male figure or a male personality that is closer to you, that whenever someone has an issue, I can run to this person. So for us men, we tend to step back from most of these friends, okay? But ideally, if we are acknowledging that there is the mental aspect of men trying to stand up and do most of the things, then I believe if we can bridge that gap, have someone we can talk to, or we can put our emotions to, then I believe it's going to bring more of a good output when it comes to opening up, and also maintaining the aspect of good output when it comes to most of the issues that are affecting us as men.
Okay.
So maybe the rest of us can also put in some input.
Thank you so much, Rina, for that insightful observation. I hadn't thought about that in that angle. That's why we are not men, and we are glad you guys are here. So the floor is yours. If you have anything else to add on why men find it so hard, I'm just thinking, is it all in your head? Like, you just think, let me withdraw, because I feel like when I talk about it, that's why we are so different. When I talk about it, they'll see me some type of, like, wataniona as a weak man, a vulnerable man. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please, the floor is open.
Just a quick one. Intrusiveness. The society has, it has gotten into man's space so much that there's no freedom. Why? That there are spaces like mental issues keeps on growing right now, because their spaces have been so intruded that it's not just easy to openly talk about and speak. Like how? You know, like naturally, men will not openly speak up. But what will happen is, if we met the four of us, the five of us gentlemen here, you will make an observation like, hey, boss, you don't look well today. You get. And simply like that. That's when you're going to find possibly my friend is going to say, but to be very honest, Bana, there's this and this that is happening. There's this and this that is going on. Or people will start a story like, hey man, this guy nowadays, he doesn't look okay. By the way, it is this way. Now, such spaces have been intruded so much. Like how? We used to have spaces like barber shops where men will meet and discuss openly and such things. Those spaces have been, even, like, I'll be very honest with myself. I only have one barber shop in whole Nairobi where I go. Other spaces I cannot even be freely walking to put my head there. Reason being, guards have flooded that area. It's not even open to speak. We used to have small barazas in the evening where you take some coffee. I like it in the coast because you find men doing this draft and the rest of the things. It's no longer there because those spaces have come in. You'll find the silence. There are places, especially now with technology. It's very difficult nowadays as a man to just sit with yourself. You know, at times sitting with yourself is also another space to just express with yourself. 30 minutes, 1 hour, just talking to oneself. It's difficult because technology, a notification on phone comes. I have to catch some match. I have to watch some news. I have to see what is on X. I have to see what is on LinkedIn and such things. So, in particular, those spaces are narrowing each and every day. Third, also the other bit that is really making it so squeezed is responsibilities. What the society is looking at. We will see George as a man or Huntington if he has some four-wheel somewhere, he's in suit somewhere. So those are the things we are chasing each and every day to gain status in the society, which in the long run, we tend to forget. I can look for this person so that he can do, or I can catch some time to just have a discussion or walk into this space where I can be able to have a friendly environment to talk. Last part, in especially now environments where men stay most of the time, organizations, those spaces are no longer friendly because men in leadership, for example, CEOs, heads of departments, managers, they are rarely listening to men. Rarely listening to men. Rarely space is given to men. And those environments are more becoming tighter. So men is responsibility and not vulnerability in those particular spaces. So that intrusiveness wholesomely has killed this act of people talking. Then the last bit, the older generation, the sync between, that transition. I love the Asian community and I tend to love the Kushite community whereby we have those transitions. Older men pass these things to young men and like that. So they are nurtured, they are prepared, they are done. But what we have now is older men don't have time for young men, and young men are not ready to seek older men. So we just there because of that bit of disconnect. So it's a whole thing which if I was to add on what my brother has just put. Thank you.
I think I may have something to add. Okay, I will look at it in two angles. First, I want to look at it from a leadership angle, especially I've enjoyed leadership roles for quite some time. And I can tell you for a fact, for those who've been a leader, if you're a man, vulnerability usually feels like a loss of identity. Because imagine you're a leader and you're leading a team of people, and all these people are used to coming to you with the problem and you solve them. You've attended, so every day someone is coming with their own issues, their family issues, personal issues, educational issues, and you're always solving them. Now, when you have issues and you feel like, now who will I go to? Will you go to the same people who are bringing problems? And now, if you go to them, how will they take you? So in a man's perspective, vulnerability leads to loss of identity, and sometimes even safety and status. Because now, in your head, unajiuliza, sasa nikiwaambia, will they take me as they used to take me? They will think I'm starting to become weaker. You know, in a leader, you are always taken as someone who's stronger, either emotionally, you know, spiritually, physically, wherever. So when you start opening up your own issues, then that status starts to corrode. So in a way, it leads to threat of identity. And then sometimes also there's fear, like Reinhard already stated, there's a fear of rejection. You may go and open up, and then people will start rejecting you. They'll start viewing you as weak, or they start judging you. And I believe all of us have been to class where we are told to discuss, open up, and you open up, you say your issues. The next day, people start giving you nicknames. Ule mtu wa, So next time you not try to do that, because utakuwa unaitwa ule mtu wa. So the more you keep on talking your issues, you'll be having 10 nicknames. Ule mtu wa kulia. Ule mtu wa, so that fear of judgment will make you not want to open up. And see, men, we are built, we are meant to be strong in a certain way. So that will start making us feel weak, and we not want to do that. So I rather just keep it inside. It's safer with me inside than letting it out.
Imagine you're walking around in a nice suit, and they're like,
yes. Ule jamaa alipigwa na bibi. You've heard of Wetangula. Ule jamaa alipigwa na bibi. Ule jamaa sijui anakuanga aje. That judgment. So you rather just keep it inside. Watu ngangane nayo.
Correct.
Yeah. The world adjust.
Yeah.
The other one is what I like to call emotional flooding. And see, because as men, we have been built to be strong, to keep our emotion inside. And I have that weakness myself. So the moment I feel safe with someone, and especially a lady, you feel you're already safe with them, you can be vulnerable. Uanze kuongea kidogo, utaongea vitu zote. Even nilikuwa nafaa kuongea. That emotional flooding. And see, I know you guys can relate. So you were meant to say something that happened that day. Utaanza kusema hata vitu za last year. Because see, you're not used to opening up. And those things have bottled up in you. Zimekaa miaka mingi. So you just get a chance to be vulnerable, you'll open the whole floodgate. And see, that emotional flooding, when you start talking, the feelings become too intense to manage.
Yeah.
And so silence becomes safer for someone like us. So you rather just wacha tu ninyamaze, because nikianza nitajifungua mpaka nitasema ninataka sifai kuongea. So it's safer when I just keep it with myself. Or you just write an article somewhere, you post it, and just future that specific thing you wanted to let out, ili ingine ibaki. Because ukianza kuongea orally, utamwaga yenye fai kumwaga. So that emotional flooding, some of us men suffer from it. So you better just, it's safer when you just keep it with yourself. So that's some of the challenges, of being vulnerable.
Or write some small verses and motivational quotes somewhere.
You guys, I hope you relate. Una relate, Situma.
That's what I'm saying. You write some quotes somewhere, or some verses that relate.
Yes.
And you swallow it down and life goes on.
Yeah, so I think from a man's perspective, that's just to add on to what Situma and Reinhard mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry that check out some, but we don't relate. We are too. I feel that's why we meant to kasirika, because we talk and kasirika, like George said, you show it like you're angry as you. Anyways, and what I found interesting is because you have not mentioned anything that maybe it's medical, like someone can't go seek help. Most of it is just cultural. Society, it's just an entity on its own. You've mentioned, I feel sometimes it's self-imposed. I just feel like maybe I'm not a man, but I just feel like maybe it's in your mmekaa mna internalize sana, mna overthink when I talk. And I'm glad that Stuma mentioned maybe their safe spaces. That's why I had this idea. I was talking and I was saying if men could have a club, especially professional. I know someone will take the professional aspect of this. You have like a club, you men can just meet and talk, like George said. So if no one else has anything, I think nitashukisha Brighton kidogo. Lilian, nikulete juu kidogo. Ako wapi Lilian? Lilian.
Okay. And Charity, maybe one thing,
Yeah.
that thing of having clubs and men talking to a group of men. You see, it also depends. For example, I will not talk to someone who is below my league. I will not open up to someone who does not measure up to my qualities or my status. I will not.
Yes, correct. Yes, correct.
So for me to be vulnerable even to a fellow man, that man has to be above me in so many aspects. Oh, we are in this, not even the same level, because if you're in the same level, I can't even open up to you because there's nothing you're going to give me. So you have to be above
We
me.
must think.
We have to be in sync. You have to be above me.
Yeah.
But be below me. Utabidi just go watch football. That's again another issue with men. You cannot bring men again together. I love Wambia. It's a club now. Start opening up. It depends who is who in that club and what is their status as compared to mine.
And the key part, what I just identified is a man does not heal from talking. A man heals from acting.
Yes.
A man heals from action.
Yes.
From
Actually,
previous
not from
experiences.
talking. Yeah, true.
No.
Yeah.
A man will not heal from talking. Talk to him 101 times, you just make him worse.
It's true.
Engage him. Let's have some action, some sport. Those things relieve a man. Get him somebody that's going to give him money, continued revenue. Something that is going to ensure that he supports, he protects, he penetrates. And my friend, that is what is going to solve man's issue. But if it's just this talk we're having on the table, no, it's not. And in fact, one time I met men who said like, "Aso jamani kuja akatuweka tu hapa akatupigia story, there was nothing." What was it at the end of the day? But if we carry something from it, carry it home. And a good time, I realized if you want men to open to you more, if we meet with George, I've observed this, of course, at times you go to drink. If you go to a club, the first thing you do is you order yours. And when this guy joins you, then you order one, and then you're going to find you order for each other. And then after that, you're going to start talking. Then you see, then you understand each other.
Yes.
But if you're just going to meet and we start talking, that's useless, honestly. It doesn't, it's not so. And those are some of the things that make wholesomely. And I think I'm married of Chinua, where he said, people just don't meet because there are things, what are we meeting over? And what is it that is wholesome walking around? So the spaces that the society is providing, for example, that a counselor, please, if we go by statistics, they see less men.
Yeah, true. Doesn't work for men. True.
It doesn't. I don't know church they are talking. That is why very few men attend church services and church activities, because it's just talk and talk and talk. And as we go by, very few men are being in church. But very many men are in sports. The reason being, it's engaging, it's action. It distracts the head because it's wholesomely logic. So also, in definition of those spaces, it has to come in something tangible for that sake and for that matter. Thank you.
True, and that's why therapy only works for me. And see, if you look at the statistics of the number of men going to the gym or getting into physical activities, you'll find men are more once they start eating adulthood, because that is their form of therapy. Yeah. That is their form of therapy. I rather go to the gym or do some physical activity or get myself to some activity that I will use my mind, extensively, than a talk. I mean, a talk, what are we talking about? Talk is for women, I'm sorry to say. That's for assembly of women. But for assembly of men, we need something that will get us energizers, energy. That's therapy.
Sasa tukifikishana hapo, let me call in my partner.
You guys are toxic. Eh? That's all I can say.
No, Lillian, there's no toxicity here. You see just what you said. That is what makes men zip up. Anytime your husband mentions something.
It's not zipping up. Like Mesema, you don't want to be talked to. You don't want to love you. You are not going to
Let me give you a secret, Lillian. Just something small. If I come to the house such an evening, and all you're going to do is talk to me and talk, I'd rather walk out.
In fact, yeah, exactly. Actually,
but
that will send.
But if I'm going to come to the house, and I find something on the table, we eat, and then you tell me, by the way, Situma, you know what? I needed this and this. You know what? While we are eating, we are engaging, there's something. Then you're going to be the best person I ever met in the life. But if once I get the house and it doesn't, it's not. And you can generally observe, even see from not old men like us. If you have a son, you have young brothers, look, you are never going to find just boys seated together there, they are talking. No. They will be playing some football, they will be running around, they will be fighting, they will be pinching each other. You're never just going to find these young toddlers that they're just seated there talking, or there's nothing keeping them there. No. You're rarely going to find them there. But whatever the society has made these men is, they want men to talk. And that's why we have so many men engaging in unnecessary talks every day, which is not helping the society. No, productivity. That is wholesome. And I can tell you, if today we just ensured men are productive, they're producing something, believe me, you don't have an issue.
I want to agree and disagree at the same time. Eh?
But then let me add something on top of that before you disagree or agree with us. You see, and just like we've been saying since we began this conversation, the only way the way a man would like to solve his mental issues is when they're able to release energy to be released out.
Yeah.
Physical activity, gym, talk, there's no release of energy. And that's why, if I want to take this conversation much higher, the way we value sex, men and women, is different. Yeah. A man uses sex as therapy. A woman doesn't use sex as therapy. And that's what you'll find, because sex is a way of releasing your energy. And the way the analogy that Situma has given, if I come home tonight, maybe I'm stressed up and unaanza kuniuliza maswali, I'll walk out and go back where I came from. But if I come and find there's food imeshaiko hapo, we'll dine. Then if you are good enough, if you are a woman of reason and of good standard, more upright, utanipeleka kwa chumba cha kujistarehesha.
Nikule baada ya kukula.
Nikule baada ya kukula. Na utakuwa umenisaidia sana. You'll become a good therapist. Thank you.
Wow, I feel like we are starting to digress. And time is not on our side. Lillian, just take your nini before I call in Brighton. Naona pia amenyamaza sana. I need to hear his thoughts. So Lillian, just a few words, and then I bring Brighton up so that he can take his chapter. We keep on going. Thank you, Lillian, my partner. The floor is yours.
Okay, I want to agree with everyone and agree with you, Nick, that saa zingine this is the truth that we don't like accepting, so maybe we must accept. But I think history ya kusema ati talking is a waste of time. You guys, talking is therapy. You don't need to talk verbally. You can talk through writing. You can talk to yourself. You can talk to your friends. And yes, you can include activities, but I think the notion that men, I think that is the reason that people are really, watu wanaumia sana.
Lillian, forgive me. Lillian, forgive my manners.
Unajua these are
Yes.
men
Imagine
talking. You need to accept men.
George arrives in the
I've-
office. Just wait. George arrives in the office in the morning and finds I've left him a letter in his desk. Hey, what's that?
That is weird. Eh?
Just here, every pardon, I've not heard what you said.
He says
Yes,
he comes to the office and then he finds that amekuachia note kwa table yako.
Okay, sijapata, rudia tena, sorry, maybe network.
So let me start from the top. So Lillian was saying men can talk, including writing letters, or writing. She didn't specify letters. She said they can write. So I was asking her, imagine George walks in the office, or Ray, or Situma. Then I've slipped a letter or a note in George's desk. Like, what is that?
No, I've not said that kind of writing, like journaling. You talk to yourself and talk to your brain. You see, the mind is very wild. The dynamics of the brain.
Let me ask you. So George comes to the office and finds me writing a journal of how I'm feeling. In a pink.
Even me, who is a woman, even me, who is a woman, I will not allow even Charity to see what I'm journaling about. It's my thoughts, and they actually make me think out loud. But I agree. Acha nikubali that we are different. Yes.
To support, you see, to support and to get these people better is let's get to the root of it. What is inside? There's something you can change and there's something you cannot change.
Yeah.
From the XX chromosome and the XY chromosome. You get?
Yeah, I get you.
It's ingrowing. It's ingrowing. It's like growing beards. We're not going to force beards to grow on knees.
I agree.
So if you need this guy to open up, in fact, it's basically simple. Somebody who understands you. If we feel there's something wrong, let's watch it to Tembe. Can we take a walk here? Then along the walk, we can be able to ABCD. Hey, gentlemen, on Friday, can we roast some meat? What do you think? Then we are going to have it flowing. Yeah. But, and equivalent also, I'm going to put something that is outrageous, that the society thinks it's helping men. It's not. Let's stop forcing things on people where they cannot. Let's allow these people to have freedom to do what they feel like, what they think like, and what their bodies are free to do. Not by defining a script. In fact, I put this, but that is my perspective. Very few counselors understand what men. And our curriculum has not really gone deep to define the script of men. So whichever the script we talk about, the counseling procedure, what have you, it doesn't apply totally. It doesn't. So it's a wholesome script that we have to look at it and guide accordingly, and then bring out a better society and better people. Because one thing I know, and one thing I've come to experience, especially when every time I see men are in issues. One time I walked into committee here, and then we were having some activity. So I was trying to talk to some men accused of rape, men accused of these outrageous issues. And when you listen to these men, possibly they are not as how the society perceives them, because there are those men who speak to you and they are in tears. Chances are they just wanted to express something that it was misunderstood, or it came out in excessive force, or there was some sort of misunderstanding. So it just comes that if
I hope you're not justifying crime as a masculine thing, yeah?
I'm not justifying crime. I'm just looking at what is the other side of the story. What is the other side of the story? That these people, let's take a category of men who are put as deadbeat fathers or deadbeat mothers or deadbeat fathers, especially on that perspective. I don't think there's any man who wakes up, as a child, and decides to walk away from them, especially by the instinct of protecting. When you talk to those guys, they have painful stories behind them walking away. So it's a whole thing that we have
Allow me to
to see.
I have a friend with 8 different babies, with 5 different women. And as you have said, as we talk, so we go for walks, we go for runs, we talk. I talk to him, he's my friend. And trust me, Mama mmoja tu alisema he could not, like she got pregnant, he had to leave. That's the reason he left, because she got pregnant. Na akamtoka hivyo.
Kwani ni Oga Obina? Your friend ni Oga Obina?
Oga Obinas exist. There are so many there. Wako wengi kadhaa hapa nje. I think I was asking him, and then ukimsikia akijidefend akisema the two that he's currently sleeping with, the 2 of them that he's currently sleeping with is active on the kids. Juao mmoja watoto wako na wawili, the 2 that he's sleeping with. When he akijustify, unamuuliza, what about the rest? What did the kids do? Why are you not actively in their lives? Anasema ati mama yao alikuwa kichwa ngumu. Those kids did not ask to be sired. You know, you need toxicity. You can't justify irresponsibility.
That will be another discussion for another day on that uncle. And I'll give you my other side of the story. And possibly you'll see the wholesome uncle. Possibly this guy can wholesomely be able to support all those children if a certain level of consensus was arrived at. Or he was in a way put in a perspective to put through.
I beg to I beg. Please, we have 3 more people. This is a very nice discussion. Okay. Please, we have 3 nice people, and you guys will also have your time to speak. So please, I would have to bring Brighton in to talk about this, because I feel like this is now penye nataka mjazane, because it's something to do with lifestyle, and nutrition is part of it. And I can see most of you here are practicing nutritionists with your own medical or nutrition practices. So please, Brighton, if you can hear us, we are sorry, umenyamaza sana the whole 1 hour 15 minutes. If you're ready, you can just take us through is it the 4th? Is it the 4th chapter where we talk about is chapter 3, lifestyle as medicine. So you're going to take us through understanding the relationship between nutrition, sleep, movement, and mental well-being. I'm sorry, nimewa cut short. We'll continue that later, but let's give other speakers time to also exhaust what they get. Thank you for your understanding. So, Brighton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charity. Kindly confirm that you are able to hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Thanks a lot. I know I've been having a little bit of network issues. I'm still within the hospital. Conversation that we are actually having, I feel like separating the conversation in terms of young men. So I'm still a young man and old man. So, but basically it's a very interesting one, and that's why I allow the seniors to a little bit have, because they have more experience to contribute in regard to men's mental well-being. All the same, I'm going to dig deep a little bit when it comes to nutrition and find out a little bit of link up between nutrition and men's mental well-being. Now, as we define the aspect of health, of course, we are looking at very many aspects, be it physical health, emotional health, and of course, like mental health. And being someone who have also worked a little bit when it comes to communities, and every time I go to a medical camp, I find that it's more women or more ladies coming for health checkup as compared to men. So this is something that we try and look at put into context. And based on a little bit of things that I come to understand, like most of the things that George and the team have discussed is basically true. As a man, there are a lot of responsibilities that comes with that just by the virtue of being a man. And being also, for example, myself, I talk about my own capacity. As a young man, I already have a lot of responsibilities, even before ending up getting into a marriage or something like that. So when it comes to health, and I want to go and maybe do a health checkup, there is fear. One of the fears is that because of the possible vulnerability that may come a little bit later, that if I do a health checkup and I find myself having an issue, then it now puts a lot of burden again. It could be financial burden, and then stress comes in and so on. And since you have a lot of responsibilities, you wouldn't want something more that is going to burden you in this context. And that explains why most of the times that you have a medical camp, you find that there are maybe more women that are coming in as compared to men, by just the virtue that men have a little bit of more responsibilities compared maybe to women, just in quotes. I know there are a lot of discussions that can be put into place in this context. But nutrition and men's mental well-being are closely and biologically connected, as we are going to see. And what men eat, basically, what I eat and what the other men eat, basically influences the brain structure, the brain chemistry, the hormonal balance, energy regulation, and even emotional resilience. So over time, if someone is having a poor nutrition, this can increase vulnerability to issues like stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, and even talk about cognitive decline. So good nutrition, on the other end, will support emotional stability. Of course, there are many things that you put into play, but good nutrition, which now I try to debunk on, will support the emotional stability, focus, motivation, and maybe stress management. So all of that is very important when it comes to nutrition. So just a little bit, because there are a lot of things that I can discuss in relation to nutrition and the mental health, especially now that we talk about men. I might not be able to cover everything in details, but basically I'll say the brain basically depends on nutrients to produce the neurotransmitters like the serotonin, the dopamine, and norepinephrine, which regulate the mood, motivation, pleasure, and even the emotional balance of an individual. So all of these are very important, and you find that it's all related to what, as a man, what I eat and so on. So again, I'm not going to debunk so much on it, and I know it will form part of what you are going to discuss as I finish on the same. But I'll also talk about other aspects like sleep, physical activity, and stress, which are also very deeply interconnected. Are deeply interconnected lifestyle factors that actually play a role when it comes to mental health. I take into account, for example, sleep does not simply mean rest, taking rest. And I want to say this, as a man, I look at what time do I sleep, for example, personally. You can imagine right now I'm still within the facility. I go back home, there are one or two things that I need to do. Then at midnight, I've not slept yet. And in the morning, I'll be waking up very early as maybe 4 or 5 a.m.
Right on.
Yes.
Don't say one, two things. Just
Yes.
say you either cook or wash plates or sleep hungry.
That makes sense. That's basically some of the things that I do, and that's why I try to put it in. Now that I don't have some assistants, I have to do one or two. And Mr. Jeffrey is very right when it comes to that. And I'll tell you for a fact, I know I've chatted George at 1 a.m. He's not asleep yet, so I wonder what he's doing. But basically, at that time, he's still awake. And I know a number of us here and other men outside there as well. The sleeping, when you look at how many hours we sleep, it's very little around 2, 3 hours, 4 hours around there, which in real sense now is not enough. And basically, again, this have a direct impact when it comes to our mental health. So even Mr. Japheth himself, at midnight, I still find him is not asleep. So when you look at all those things, and we want to see how basically this again will basically impact the mental health of a man. So I wonder sometimes for the married people, couple, if a man is maybe still awake and the woman is asleep, I don't know how it goes. But I know that men. Yes.
I just interject a bit. Men, testosterone works best at night.
Okay.
Look at animals.
Yes.
Animals hunt at night and sleep during the day. In fact, if it was good, men should be sleeping during the day. And if you observe it, I like the Cushitic society when I was in the Northeastern. Also, in the afternoon, you'll never find any man walking or working. They all go to sleep. But night, they are actively working. And that is nature, how things mostly work. So definition of number of sleep, hour of sleep, I think at times science is also giving us things that don't necessarily affect. And personally, I take my nap from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Then after that, I can work all night. And it's been very nice, very productive, and then go in again to sleep late. So sleep is good, but what time? And then also realize most men from 1 a.m., they are very active. You'll find most of them not even getting sleep. But it's also a point of discussion. So don't worry when it comes to that sleep.
Thank you for that, Situma. Again, when it comes to that, a lot of discussion, because the argument of that we are more maybe active at night and then during the day, then you get time to sleep. Again, you could be more individualized, and so many other aspects need to be considered. Like for example, I'll give an example using myself, because I don't get time to sleep during the day still. I'm at work. Then at night as well, I'm still doing one or two things. So basically, at the end of the day, when I look at it keenly, and when I use also George as an example, I know during the day, a busy person here and there and does this. And a number of men in that context, they still work during the day. At night, we still sleep late. And then we are saying that this is going to end up impacting the mental health. But of course, like you said, it is subject to discussion, because then we have maybe a number of men who now they are active all the night, and then during the day they are asleep. But in my own perception, I want to believe that is the fewer compared to those men who, because most men, I still see them work during the day, and then still at night, they still don't end up sleeping early or sleeping for the period that maybe we will recommend. But what I want to debunk on is that just to say that sleep is not simply rest, because sometimes rest and sleep have been confused. So when you talk about sleep, we are talking about an active biological process that basically restores the brain and regulates emotions. So how do we now, because I'm talking about something like sleep, how does sleep now support the mental health of a man, for instance? Of course, in general, we'll be looking at how sleep is important when it comes to mental health. But basically, we look at the emotional regulation aspect, that adequate sleep will help the brain manage a number of emotions effectively. So well-rested individuals are better able to cope with challenges, frustration, and even interpersonal stress. Now, sometimes, like a number of us during the discussion I've mentioned, you come from work in the evening, you are very tired, and then again, you don't want a lot of engagements at that particular time. Imagine if someone has to engage you, like maybe a wife, we start to have a lot of conversations. You bring a lot of frustration sometimes. And that's why we are saying that for a man, the best, one of the things that need to happen, of course, not happening even to me who is not married yet, I wonder when I marry now if I'll be able to even get a 2-hour rest. But I look at it in this context that once maybe you are from work in the evening, it will be very important that as a man you also get adequate sleep, because that's very important when it comes to mental well-being of a man, of course. Now, sleep improves attention, a number of things, because sometimes when you've not slept so well at night, and then in the morning, or rather during the day, you have to be very active and go and do one or two things. Sometimes we now have issues of attention deficit because you didn't get enough sleep during the night and so on. So it's very important. Sleep is very important when it comes to improving attention, memory, learning, and some even decision making. Some of the decisions you make, you'll be able to make better when you get adequate sleep. So sometimes poor sleep will lead to issues like forgetting. Now that basically the opposite when it comes to having good memory. So you can be forgetting things easily, poor concentration, and so on. So all of that is very important. And again, when it comes to mood stability, like you said, once you're tired, you want to sleep, you don't want a lot of disturbance. So consistent quality sleep will support balanced levels of the neurotransmitters. Remember, we are talking about the serotonin, the dopamine, which basically directly influence the mood and the motivation of an individual, and especially in this context, we talk about man. Now, in regard to all of these things, I've talked about the stress, and again, I know George talked a little bit of physical activity, which is very important when it comes to, again, the mental health and well-being of a man. So physical activity is actually one of the most effective natural tools for protecting and improving the mental well-being of an individual, and in this context, a man. So how physical activity basically improves the well-being, because again, that's something that you come and look at. And because we are talking about the mental health, do men get enough time again to engage in physical activity? Now, again, it's subject to discussion. As an individual, I have to try as much as possible. When I come home from work, I go back in the house, I have to buy my own equipment, and now that I can use to a little bit do exercise, because at some point I was also getting worried of how my health again coming into play. So, but there is aspect of time. Do we really get time to do the physical activities now that sometimes you are very busy during the day doing your work and so on. Then at night again you are a little bit engaged in one or two things. Then if you do not engage again in full health of a man or of an individual. So when you do an activity, there is that feel-good chemicals that is being released, and exercise will help us stimulate the release of this. We talk about endorphins, the serotonin again, and then the dopamine, these neurotransmitters, which again come into play and reduce the feeling of sadness and so on. So as a countermeasure, when sometimes you are stressed, when sometimes you are sad and so on, it will be advisable that at least you engage in physical activity as part of rather a measure when it comes to improving the mental well-being of an individual. Now, because I don't want to dig deep again when it comes to this science, and like Situma have said, a lot of these things are still subject to a lot of discussion, so we'll be engaging more and more. But again, we look at the aspect, because I've talked more of sleep, but I'll come. Now, what's the recommended time for sleep? Around 8 hours. Again, we'll see if, again, that is subject to maybe discussion how we want to improve the mental health and so on. But men can strengthen both emotional and physical health by building simple, consistent daily habits, which I'm now going to a little bit tackle. For example, prioritize quality sleep, which I've talked about. Again, I'm not going to dig deep on the same. You need to eat for energy and mental clarity. Now, when it comes to eating habits, men actually have poor eating habits in most circumstances. I don't know, because we talk about self-love. When I look at maybe today, how I've eaten from morning. Today, since morning, I only managed to take my breakfast. So I haven't taken lunch, and then dinner. You can imagine by the time I'll be arriving home very tired and so on, what am I going to prepare? So I'm going to look at something very fast and so on. So again, with this, when I'm living a single life like right now, it's a challenge again when I go back in the house and so on. So the eating habits again is becoming a problem, because if you're not eating well, again, it's going to impact the mental well-being. Like I've said, when you eat, basically it directly impacts the brain function and so on. So when you look at the eating patterns of men, in real sense, because on the aspect of now appearing, there is no aspect of vulnerability. We end up sacrificing a lot again, maybe for our families, because imagine if I'm having just socioeconomically, if I'm not good, but I'm still having some cash, I'll sacrifice it more for my family. And then as a result, what will happen to me is that I will have missed some meal in between and so on. Again, this end up impacting our mental health. But as a countermeasure, it's very important that we ensure that we eat regularly, balance of course healthy meals that are very important when it comes to improving the mental health. We ensure that there is adequate hydration. Do you find a man carrying a bottle of water every now and then, that I'm going to the facility, I've carried a bottle of water, or I've carried a meal, a packed lunch that I'm going to eat? No way. For me, I don't do that. So I rather just eat in the house. Again, maybe it's the aspect of masculinity, the things that we are talking about or discussing during this particular panel discussion. Because now I'm looking at myself. A lady has carried lunchbox. I've also carried mine. I don't. When I carry that, I feel like. What do I say? And being again, when it comes to culture, being a woman, there are so many things that I put into context, and I'll say I'll feel like more of a less man in this context. Of course, I put it in quotes. Now that is also subject to discussion, because I've also seen men who have their wives have prepared meals so well, and they've carried their packed lunch, and they come with it at work and they eat also. But then for a number of us, including me, now that I'm guilty in this context, I'm not able to do that. Do I carry a bottle of water? I rather just buy water if I feel thirsty in between. But then adequate hydration is very important. I wouldn't want to walk with a bottle of water in between the road and so on, or even at work. So I don't know. Again, when I carry that, for me, my context, I feel of a lesser man in this particular content. But now, when it comes to science, we are saying that adequate hydration is very important throughout the day, because again, this is going to help improve the mental well-being of a man. Now, exercise, like you say, is very important. And again, I know this is an area maybe someone like George is very interested in, because I've seen him having a lot of discussions within the media platforms when it comes to physical activity and so on. But when physical activity as an individual, again, I do not get enough time. And then sometimes for me, I wouldn't when sometimes you're alone, it becomes a little bit of difficult, and that you need to have time, maybe go to a gym, so that where men are, and then you are able to do it better. But then if you do not have enough time to do that, then again it becomes a problem. And manage stress intentionally as one of the countermeasures when it comes to improving the mental well-being. Now, since we don't talk a lot, again, managing stress has become a problem. How often do a man go and visit a psychologist or a psychiatrist in this context for just issues relating to mental well-being? Rare. Personally, I've never visited, and I'm not seeing myself at any point visiting a psychologist, of course, in this context for mental health. Again, I don't know whether I'll be able to do that even when I'm very stressed and so on. It's becoming a little bit of difficult to do that. But again, it's something that's recommended that you need to manage stress intentionally, and that means you might need to involve professionals like the psychologists that we talk about, that is able to guide us much better. And of course, when it comes to managing stress, it's not all about seeking a professional like a psychologist, but of course there are many other ways. You practice meditation and a number of things, of course, again in that in this context. So just to finalize, because of time, mental health should be viewed basically as a very integral part of overall health for us as men and so on, and it's something that maybe we'll need to now think of beyond. So mental process will affect the physical system, such as the immunity, the hormones, the cardiovascular function, and metabolism, which for most of us, we might not think in that particular context, that the mental health, the mental aspect is going to end up affecting a lot of things. When we talk about metabolism, the hormonal balance, the immune system, and so on, and being a clinical nutritionist, this is an area again that we try and again debunk on so much. But so when we talk about issues like chronic stress, depression, all of this can increase issues like inflammation, and these weakened immune responses can disrupt your blood sugar control and so on. And that's why when you're managing patients, one of the things that we also talk about is that they need to, especially those with the NCDs, is ensuring that they manage stress and so on, because we know how that can really impact the management, proper management of those particular conditions and so on. But maybe because it's subject to discussion, so that allow us also to debunk more on the same, I'll take it back to Charity. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much, Brighton. The floor is open. Anyone who wants to add anything more when it comes to nutrition, sleep, physical activity, and mental health? Let's stick to the topic, guys. Please, not to pay the other two remaining panelists time to talk, please.
Sasa hiyo, that's why men don't talk, because now you are time driven. How will you talk?
George, you know,
that's part of the problem. Anyway, I understand you. It was just a side note.
As the host, you have to moderate the session number to takapo mpaka 12. But it's okay. The floor is open. I know all of you.
To wrap it, just to wrap it, what Brighton has discussed, the way to man's heart is his stomach. Feed man's stomach with the right food. And with diet, especially right now, we are feeding men with things that are making them hormonally feminine. Hormonally feminine mean the nutrition that we are feeding men, it's not healthy for men. So good food enable these men work. This food, good food that, you know, there's nothing that gives a man peace like food. It's just that way. And anyway, it can take a while, but let me just leave it there. But key to take home is just give a man good food. Quality, healthy, and nutritious. Simple. But not waru, not chapati, not rice. Remove that on the diet of a man. Please, and if you are a nutritionist, you are prescribing food to a man, remove rice, remove potatoes, remove chapati on the man's diet, please. And soda and whatever. Things that naturally support testosterone level flow. Thank you very much.
And just to add on what Tuma is saying, that's a very important area. As far as you would want to remove chapati, my chapati is my favorite at some point. So I rather take 10 chapatis, but I have to take chapati at the end of the day. So, but it's very important that men receive good nutrition. Personally, as an individual, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. so that I prepare some good ugali. So even though I've not taken lunch and I'm here to even take something in the evening, in the morning as I leave the house, so that at least it can sustain me for a longer period of time, I have to prepare my ugali and have some omena, hapo kando, ama kama nika fish, or some meat if it is there, and have a little bit of vegetables. But it's very important. I can't, for example, like Stuma have mentioned, I can't take rice for evening, and I've never gone to a hotel where I've gone myself and bought rice as part of meal that I want to take. Impossible, because I believe that I have to take ugali, something that's going to sustain me. So as a man, basically, you have to eat well. But again, the aspect of eating well, you know, sometimes you talk, it's culturally, we put it into context when it comes to culture and so on. So of course, there are cultures that sometimes they believe if I take this waru and so on, it's good and so on. But being a Luo, I know a day cannot pass when I've not taken ugali and some good food, and or rather some meat or fish, kando yake. So it's very important that you also eat well from morning. That is because now during the day when you are leaving for work and you are going to be engaged, it's very important that early in the morning you've taken something good. So if you leave home and your wife have just prepared some tea and bread, I wonder again it's going to be a problem for us to some extent when it comes to ensuring that our mental well-being is okay. So I think just to stress on what he has mentioned, good food is very important for us. Again, it's subject to discussion because what is good food? Again, we put it into context, but you need a good meal that is nutrient dense, and in the morning you take something that is able to sustain you for a longer period of time. So things like bread, me in my house, I don't prepare tea at all. Maybe somewhere else I can take that tea, but I have to eat good food. Back to you, Charity, as the floor.
Thank you, Japhet. Thank you for that. As well as Situma, thank you for your contributions. Now, maybe just to close up, because the time is really going, and I wanted, or the idea was to make sure that at least men are seeking more help or something like that. That was the whole idea of this conversation, to have men being comfortable with seeking help, trying to wasikufe peke yao, unaona? Because you see me, I'm a female, and maybe I'm approachable. That's why I've gotten several DMs on people who are struggling with mental health here and there, which is quite sad. And a good number there, funny enough, they come from men. And I think the bracket is between either 20 to 34. I think that's where the men struggle the most. And your story ya kusema that you cannot talk to someone or you cannot relate to someone that is below you, it's really sad, because who is going to guide this generation? Unaona? Who's going to guide them? Who's going to now try and give them a leap? You know, with women, we have a lot of, is it platforms or is it support avenues that you can reach out? Kama ume struggle this, you know, if I'm struggling with weight, I'll go reach out to this person. Kama ni mental health, I can go here. Like, we have normalized seeking help. Even for me as a mother currently, ilikuwa normalized, but currently we are really shouting. I'm also shouting on that so that mothers can seek more help. Yes.
I think they I think there's a part you misunderstood or misquoted George when he said he cannot talk to somebody below him. He didn't mean he cannot afford help to somebody below him. He meant he needs help from somebody above him.
Yeah, because I was wondering, aje sasa, because people will come with problems, and maybe I understand the fact that as a leader, lazima mtu ajifanye akuwe tough and all that, and as a man, clearly you guys have to be tough and everything. But
Sasa Lilian, ungeseek clarification from me. You could have seek clarification.
I texted on the chat. You didn't see.
I didn't see. Yeah, you see now. There's some echo on the background. Okay, you see, I'll keep saying this, and I will say it for the longest time, that men and women are built differently. And see, and I'm saying so because even in my household, I have women. I have 2 daughters in my house who actually have an adult in my own house. So the way I'll handle our mental issues is different from the way I'll handle a boy or a son. Ikifika mahali naona I cannot handle, I will just look for someone who is a female that has raised someone of the same age na nimpea ongea na yeye. Because I realize that we are built differently. For me, I may tend to toughen up, or if I had a son, I'll make my son to toughen up. But there are certain aspects, mental issues. For example, if my daughter starts showing, nitatafuta tu mtu, somebody who has handled such kind of cases for that kind of age gap, nimwambie anisaidie hapo, but I will not try to use my tactics or my way of doing things and impose on a girl or a lady or a woman, because I recognize that we are different and we handle things differently. So on the issue when I said about someone above me, this is what I mean. If I'm married, there's no way I'll take my marital issues to someone who's single. True or false? If I'm divorced, I will not take my divorce issue to someone who's not divorced. We will not understand each other. So that I mean, I should look for someone above me who has experienced the same thing or has lived the same experience, but has a wider experience than I have. That's what it means. For example, now I cannot take my issues to someone who's in campus. How now? We have different lifestyles. I mean, what I've gone through to life, that person has not even begun. So there's no way nazapeleka shida yangu mtu wako campus. I'll be responsible even with myself. You understand? So that's what it means. So I look for someone who has lived much than me, ndo nimpeleke issues zangu, because I'd understand and we can talk as men and help each other. I hope it.
Yes, Judge, it's very clear. It's very, and that makes a lot of sense, because in nilikuwa nashangaa, I was really worried for the younger population, but it is well. So maybe just as we close, maybe you can give us insights, 1 minute each. Now, there's this person who's struggling with identity. I believe identity crisis. I think we can have a conversation, if you guys will be open to it. We talk about identity crisis in, I don't want to say in men, but I think it's more pronounced in men, if I'm not wrong. Sitaki kuwaonea. So maybe this person who has issues with identity crisis, wakona issues in self-worth, self-awareness, just as we close, as your parting shot, 2 minutes each, you talk to this person, you talk to them about how to now try and come out of that, your confusion, wasifeel ni kama there's no, I'm a reader, so there's this, I'm sure we've read this book in Inasemanga, or if you come across this article where it says that you're only scared of starting, or you're only scared of restart. You should only be scared of restarting when you're dying tomorrow. When you're assured that you're dying tomorrow. But you see, a good number of our current, when given my own friends, do not understand or do not believe in the power of starting over, and I think it affects men more. And the funny thing is, men have the advantage. A man can start off at 50 years, get married, have kids, and move on and be okay with life, Now, we're successful by 70 and still make history. We have seen such. But unfortunately, your pressure, your current society, the men wanakuwa so much pressurized on, you have to make it by 25, you have to make it by 35, you have to have this by 40. Like Mimi, I don't want to get into my personal problems, but there's just pressures that on a GK. By the time I'm 40, I'm supposed to have done this and this and this, It's kind of unnecessary, and maybe you can talk to that man, because me, I'm a woman, as you have said, and me, I do not understand. Honestly, I do not understand. Because me nilikuwa na understand the biological clock in quotes, and nowadays it's no longer a thing, because child free is also a thing, So maybe you can talk to that gent or that guy who's struggling with that, but at least they know there's hope, or there's something they can do to make things turn around for them. Patience, vituka hizo. 2 minutes each as we close.
Okay, so maybe how I'll handle it. First, I think I would like to approach it with the sign of respect to this person or this individual, whether young or old, whether in the same age group or not. Because I noticed a man going through identity crisis, first, you cannot just come in and start correcting them first, because then that will show you're trying to show that you know more than them. You need to listen to them, make them feel safe with you, and don't be judgmental. Listen, in fact, give them time to speak more, and you speak less. Just listen and listen and listen and listen. Encourage them to speak even more. And then reassure their feelings. In fact, tell them that their feeling is valid, because that's what men go through. And then once you've done that, you try to reassure them. I mean, because they're not the only people who are going through the same. These are issues that men have gone through all through, life, all through the life stages. So and give support where necessary. If in cases where you feel it's too much for you to handle, you can always refer to someone who has gone through the same, and then they can be able to advise. But what I would encourage is not to be judgmental and not to overspeak over them. Let them speak and speak, just listen. Don't call them names that they are weak. Those are what people do out here. Try to shaming language that you are weak, you are confused, you are lazy, you're not a real man. You know, all those kind of terminology usually are not helpful. Yeah. Maybe the rest can add.
Thank you, George, for that. Maybe we can hear from Japheth, and then Brighton, and then Reina as we close. Talk to that guy who's confused about where to start, about identity crisis, because it's a thing, about scared about tomorrow, you know, being late in life. Talk to that man or to that gent who has all those confusion.
I think what I'll say in identity crisis is, number one, don't compare. We are not on the same wavelength, really. Comparing yourself to another man or another professional in your career adds to mental stress or mental depression. I may be driving my car, but we are having the same salary. You don't know what I do when I leave the gates of that hospital. So comparison is one of the biggest things that weigh down men. So do not compare. Number two, none of us is late or on time, because there is no set timing for any of us. That is why at my age of 22 or 23, I'm alive, but there are some 23-year-olds who are already dead. So there is no set time for all of us. So you can't consider yourself late, delayed, or below time. So just go at your pace and keeping at what you do. Finally, it's just to show up. Show up when you needed to, and keep doing what you're supposed to do. Sorry, there's some background in my end. Keep showing up, because there's I think there's a content creator. I am losing the name. He keeps saying, yeah, it's Andrew Kibe, I think so. Must be Andrew Kibe. He says, consistency beats talent at any time. You may not be talented, but you're consistent in what you do. So consistency will get you out there. So you may not deliver results today. What you're doing today, maybe it's a startup. You are a startup in this career of nutrition or in this medical field, and you're not at that place where you're seeing, you know, people like George getting awards left, right, and center. They're appearing on TV. You may not be there right now, but just do what you're doing consistently, and then over time, the consistency will reward. I think I'll just give those three things to respond to the issue of identity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Japheth. That is very good. I hope to the listener or to someone who will come across this and they're really struggling, they will really apply those things. They're really good and they will help, not even the men, even us females. So yes, let's hear from Brighton.
Okay, thank you, William. So just try. Now, there is an echo. I'm not sure if it's some happening on my end. Okay, thank you. But for men with identity crisis, one of the things maybe I would say, they need to normalize the experience. Like maybe Georgia has said, we need to understand them. So we need to help them understand that identity struggles are actually very common and human, especially during major life transitions when it comes to career pressure. The family wants you to get a job and so on. There are family expectations, there is a loss, there is failure, or even some rapid changes. So it's very important that these kind of men need to understand that questioning who you are doesn't necessarily mean you are weak. It means you're actually growing. So you need to do more. So this will help reduce the aspect of shame or even isolation. Again, maybe another thing is about encouraging self-reflection. So without pressure. So we look at maybe advising what matters, what's their priority at the moment, at the now. So then we get to they get to identify the priority during that particular juncture, so that they feel less pressure again during that particular moment. Again, we need to emphasize more on values over just titles or labels. So we need to understand that when it comes to identity, it doesn't have to be about titles. It doesn't have to be more of income status. So we need to encourage such men to actually focus on the core values as well, like issues relating to integrity, kindness, responsibility, faith, learning, and of course service, which is very important. So you may not know, like maybe Mr. Japheth have mentioned, like you need to give them hope. You may not know who you are becoming yet, but you can choose how to live today, and that can make you a better person actually tomorrow. And of course, because I'm a clinical nutritionist, of course, I have to a little bit also to say that they need to have or rather promote a healthy daily structure, and all of this involves a number of aspects that I've discussed. So, like I've said, men's mental well-being is undermined, but not by one single habit, but by the accumulation of daily lifestyle patterns. For example, poor sleep, inadequate nutrition, unmanaged stress, emotional suppression, inactivity, and maybe isolation. So these habits will find themselves interacting and creating cycles that again affect the mood, motivation, relationships, and even physical health. So as far as we look at the aspect of someone who is having identity crisis, it is very important for them also to understand when it comes to mental health, it is not separate from their lifestyle. It is shaped by how we as men, we eat, we move, we rest, we cope with situations, connect for our towards maybe stronger emotional health and overall well-being. As I finish, also one segment, we need to encourage them to express themselves and not suppress the emotions. I know it's an area we are not doing so well, but most of the times, like a number of us have mentioned, men are often taught to hide emotions, but we need to let men know it is okay to talk about confusion, fear, or even disappointment at some point. So you need to share with a trusted friend. When you have a mentor, you can talk to them, or even a faith leader, for example. And like George mentioned, if you had an issue, look for someone maybe who has had a similar experience. So you need to talk it out when you are having such challenges. And identity also often becomes clearer when it comes through a lot of actions that you engage in. For example, now involves learning. And lastly, I'll say we need to, of course, reinforce hope and patience in these people. That identity cannot be discovered overnight. So we need to reassure this group that confusion might be temporary, it might be there, but growth again is not linear, is not a straight line. Sometimes there are hiccups in between, but then we need to give them hope. Then that the future will be better is more than the current struggle. So you are not lost, but you are in a transition. Back to you, Lilian. Thank you.
Thank you, Japheth. Thank you, Brighton. Sorry for that. Thank you, Brighton, for that. And yeah, we are really appreciating these comments and that advice. So I really hope that we are getting somewhere and you're getting to that person who's struggling. Situma, kindly give us your insights and then we close.
Thank you very much. And let me first appreciate my fellow panelists, George, Japheth, Brighton, and Reina. Thank you very much for that awesome discussion. I'll be open to welcome you to somewhere I sit on the weekend. We can chomasa mnyama. Yes, we discuss without Lilian and
Situma, I also want to be invited. I also want to be invited.
You'll have your own session,
It's called a main
but
cave.
this will be men cave.
Yes.
Tunachoma nyama polepole, we discuss the whole day, the whole night, and wake up. We switch off our phone.
It's allowed. It's allowed.
So George, reach me out. We can have something. We close out this month in a style. Kai tu mahali tuongee. Then
Lazima.
we hide somewhere. So I'm a firm believer that you cannot go a journey on somebody else's fuel. You can never. You can never. And you can never go on a journey on someone else's lift. If you have borrowed a lift, life becomes technical. And it becomes very difficult for men currently because identity crisis comes in because I'm going on somebody else's fuel, I'm on someone's lift. How is it? I'm living one trying to fit in my father's shoes. I'm trying to fit into my career shoes. I'm trying to fit into what my school told me. It's not going to work. And that is the biggest cause of identity crisis. I don't know now what to take. And most young men I meet, they don't know what to take, what their father told them, what their mother told them, what their teacher told them, what their lecturer, and what the society is telling. No. We have, or you have to write your own path. You have to write your own chapter. You have to write your own book. And where does it start? Just sit yourself with yourself, listen. Listen to your stomach. Go to that toilet seat and see that shit go down. Because there's nobody who's going to shit for you. Go to that bathroom, that cold bath, let it run down your spine and ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? Is this the partner I want to live with? Is this the career I like? If it's not, shut out. And I can tell you wholesomely, myself, when I went to campus, honestly, I didn't like nutrition. I was given nutrition. I find myself in nutrition. But then after graduating, I told myself, no. I had to chant a different path. And any minute, any time, if somebody called me to this field, I'll wake up and do. I'll walk out and do. So what is that thing that you want to do? Do you find it the right space for you to thrive? And once you find it the right space, it doesn't matter the obstacles. So the first thing, not even talking to somebody, yourself, that intuition, that self-examination. Is this what you want to do? Is this what you like? And the earlier the better. That is why it's not limited, of course. I'm talking to anybody, be it female. Stop looking at, like, I hate when I see young females say, I want to be like Rihanna. I want to be, please, that is bullshit. I want to be Nelson Mandela. Please, there's no prison. I'm not going to be in prison for 20-something years. And currently, the world is not going to allow you to be in prison for that time period. So you're not going to be Mandela. Neither are you going to become Obama. So please, chant your own path and work it out and get through. Listen to your stomach. What does your stomach tell you? Wake up one day, do self-chiseling, and walk that path. Then afterwards, you've said that, ask yourself, whom are you going to work with? Is it George who's going to help me move? Is it Reina who's going to get me there? Is it Lillian who's going to help me walk this path? Then you're going to find very successful so that you recruit your own. And I like football because, like, when new managers come in, they'll always select their own team. They'll scout their own player. They'll be able to know which format to play, irrespective of the club, the owners, and whatever they do. The same thing, what identity should be. You create your own path, make your own shoe and walk your own journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Situma. I like that. Ile mtu akisema ati I want to be like you, tell them no, do not be like me. There can only exist one person. Me ambianga mtu there can only exist one Mumina. Be your great self. Thank you for that. Reina?
I think most of the things have been aired out. Just to maybe give a summary of everything that is happening. We all know and we all believe that identity crisis, to some extent, it is not a weakness per se. So if in any case someone is putting themselves to a point of identifying themselves in terms of being weak or something like that, then they should get out of that thinking. So above all, what we ought to do is, as a professional and also as maybe a brother or a sister, then we ought to be there to give affirmation on what is really happening. So just try to be the stronger person in the picture, at least to bring about some positive output to the person who is feeling inferior or having that crisis per se. And as Situma said, we have different paths. So it's upon one person to identify and challenge themselves on what I want to become in every aspect of whatever we're going through. So this will give you the aspect of sitting down yourself and realizing these are my weaknesses and these are my strengths. So this is the part I want to do. So with every single bit of what is happening, then I will encourage myself, or this person will give more of input to what he or she is feeling. So we can also try and help in the aspects of giving out the idea of discovering oneself. So to the point of someone feeling inferior or something like that, then I always tell, or I always tend to think then that this person hasn't identified him or herself. So this will definitely bring about the effects of having challenges and having things to do with not identifying your skills or something like that. So people have different gifts and we can use them in different ways. Okay. George has his own gifts and all that. He appears on TVs and all that. And maybe Japheth has its own. Lillian has their own parts. So if in any case we will identify our gifts that we have internally, then this will always bring about the aspect of self courage and the self-awareness that this is where my strengths are and these are my limits. So this is the part I want to do. So if that happens, then definitely you'll find that most of the things that are happening, even to the aspects of identifying oneself and also to the topic that we're discussing of issues with mental state and all that, then definitely we'll have no fear, we will have no shame, we will have no disappointment, because whatever we are going through is actually coming from within. So if one realizes that, then definitely we are going to have a better future, a better community, and a better oneself. So it's upon someone to realize that this is who I am, okay, and accept that this is me. I have to build myself from what is there and pick it up, and then we live by what we call our own means. Okay, so that will give you a state of a fair mental state, because I have accepted myself with what I have. Then this is what I'm going to work on with, and also to the broader generations, to young men and also to older men. We just need to give out what we have, and definitely emotions will never pull us down. So it's upon us to bring about the aspect of realizing who we are and bring it out in a very clear way. Thank you. Back to you, Lillian.
Thank you so much, Reina, and thank you to our amazing panelists. That has been an amazing discussion. And just here to thank you for finding time first to come in and share with us, and just to encourage someone who is actually really struggling about their mental health to normalize seeking help. You know, it's okay for men to seek help. It's okay for men to not be okay. And it's okay for men to cry. I know the gents will disagree with me, but if you're feeling really imekukaza na unataka kutoa machozi, let it out. Let it out inasaidianga. I am speaking from someone who cries as an experienced crier. So najua mnataka kunipinga tena, but it's okay. Msinipinge sana. Let people express their emotions. And yeah, thank you so much from the corner. Our very present guest anakataa kabisa hii maneno ya kuendelea conversations about men not seeking help and men not crying. So please, if you're struggling, reach out. Yes.
The uninvited guest was just reminding you how men will sound if they do what you're suggesting. Thank you.
That's a good one.
Oh my God. That is, yeah, that's a good one. Let me agree. But again, it's okay for men to seek help. And if you're struggling, before it gets really dark, reach out to people. I'm not saying you reach out to me because mimi sijui kusaidia wanaume. Reach out to the men. They can help you more. They can help you better. And please, our gents and our male in the society, please be mjeke outside there. Talk about men's mental health. Let it be funded. Let it be epigwe kelele. You know, I have a brother, I have friends, I have people I have seen struggling with mental health, and it's really sad kwa sababu like mtu anakuja anakuambia I'm addicted to gambling, sina mtu wa kuongea na yeye, na ni a total stranger, you don't know them, haujaiwa meet, like you just mtu anakutolea tu mashida na kuandikia a whole paragraph, then they tell you pray for me. So unashangaa utamuombea aje, but you say a prayer. So yes, I think we need to normalize, I don't know, men's mental health conversations, and that can be done by men. So when you mmeongea clearly, you will not listen to women when they start talking about men's mental health. So please talk about it. When you mmesema you will not listen to women, you will not listen to us, talk about men's mental health. Talk about seeking support, talk about confusion, talk about self-awareness, talk about hizi vitu ndogo ndogo that tunaongeleanga nazo about women. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, if you have any contributions, I want us to close this in the next 2 minutes. I will allow you 2 more minutes.
I think Lillian, it's also important from a men's perspective to appreciate your positive feminism. You know, having your little one to join us here and cheer us through adulations it's unheard of. You know, I just like the way you carry yourself and accept motherhood, you know. And I mean, next time we should bring our wife candidates to you to, you know, to a mentor.
No, nitawapoteza, don't.
Anyway, thank you. I really respect that. It's imeniguza mahali.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that as well. Thank you. 1 more minute before we close. Ndaifunga in 25.
Thank you. I just thank you for the space, and thank you for giving that opportunity. Slightly disappointed. You know, I love football. My DRZ has lost, so wacha tu tuende tulale.
Masani ya kulala na wenye hawajafika nyumbani waende nyumbani sasa. Waende mkakule. Chakula zimeandaliwa ziko kwa meza. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you. Senegal itashinda tu. Allow me to
Thank
close.
you.
Charity, asanteni sana. That has been a very insightful discussion. I have learned a lot. Zingine zimenishtua sana excess. Sijui kama nitakubali, but I will try my best. Because we want to support. I will try my best to accept because I want to offer support to the men in my life. So yeah, thank you for that. That was very insightful. So we will definitely call you for another discussion. Of course, this is very lengthy. Hatungeimaliza na siku moja, but all the insights have been captured and we really appreciate it. Asanteni sana. Charity, kindly close up.
Hi, Lillian.
Hi, Charity. Okay.
So thank you so much for honoring our invitation to come to our platform. Sasa nataka kuendi live, mimi niko kwa giza Lillian.
It's okay, mama.